cybersecurity, physical security, the United States Capitol, professional black ops. We're going to talk about the breach that happened to the Capitol building, active shooter training, safe rooms, and where people using social media to organize those groups, and is that violating their free speech if you don't let people get on Facebook, Snapchat, or WhatsApp to, I guess, try to organize? So is that violating their free speech? So once again, we're going to talk about cybersecurity, physical security, which a lot of people in cybersecurity don't talk about, and the United States Capitol building. So let's get started. So there's an article, and everybody's pretty aware of what's happening. So like I said, we're going to go through these articles, and we're going to talk about incident response at a high level. So let's talk about it. Capitol attacks, cybersecurity fallout, stolen laptops, lost data, and possible espionage. Here's seeking information on violence at the United States Capitol. These some of the people they were looking for. I think most of these people actually has been apprehended. The weird thing was they were putting a lot of these people on the no-fly list. So as these people were getting on airplanes and trying to travel, they were actually getting escorted off the airplanes because the FBI and the NSA put a lot of these people on a no-fly list as part of American terrorists. So when the hostile actors penetrated the Capitol building on January 6th, they gained access to individual chambers, office, and remained at large within the Capitol complex for well over 2 hours. We have reports that items were stolen. One report comes from the acting U.S. Attorney for D.C., Michael Schwerin, who stated electronic items were stolen from Senator's office, documents. We have to identify what was done to mitigate that. My local Senator Jeff Merkley reported that at least one laptop had been stolen. Amid stolen laptop, lost data, and potential espionage, the cybersecurity consequence of this attack will take months to sort out. Here's a look at the cybersecurity issues. So a lot of times when you talk about physical security, people breaching a building, people don't really put two and two together. That is a cybersecurity incident. So what should be the task taken hand, and what should you do post and pre-post actions taken? Once again, national security issues. While surveillance undoubtedly tracked many of the hundreds who made it inside the building, we cannot assume we know exact second-by-second moments of everyone who gained interest. That means there's absolutely no knowing what actions were taken against digital gear inside the building. Passwords, documents, access codes, confidential or secret information may have been stolen. We also need to assume that some computers have been compromised with malware loaded onto them. Since malware is key to any systematic penetration, we must assume that bad actors have gained access to some persistent, hidden, and ongoing access to the Capitol building. So when people actually ransacked the building, of course, they were stealing lectors, files, and stuff. But did anybody load software or machines, right? To could actually be malware used to do a backdoor in those systems, or to actually exfiltrate data that was on those laptops. In all likelihood, only a small number of machines were probably compromised. But given the sensitive nature of information stored on a digital gear inside the Capitol, and given that it may be impossible to quickly ascertain which devices were compromised, federal IT personnel must assume that all digital devices at the Capitol building have been compromised. So what does that mean? That means they're probably going to go through and erase every laptop, phone that was in that building and reload all the software. The situation is actually worse than it may appear at first. According to the USA Today timeline, Congress reconvened at 8 p.m. on January 6th. It's likely that the staff computer use began where minutes after the Congress reconvened. Absolutely, there's no way to completely lift and replace thousands of machines instantly. Therefore, from the moment until now, members and their staff have been using digital services that have been compromised. That means all communication files and network connections from to those devices may have been compromised. Physical access raises the stakes. If the Capitol computers were penetrated by traditional malware-driven hack followed by a breach over the internet, mitigation could have been moderately straightforward, if not inconvenient and painful. Systems could have been scanned for malware, and in most cases, sensitive cases, hard drives could have been zeroed or replaced. But there were hundreds of unauthorized people in the building. People who were photographed gained access to desks, private office of the members. These people could have gone anywhere within the building. We also have to assume that there were some foreign actors who entered the building by blending in with the crowd. Yes, I know that sounds paranoid, but hear me out. We know that the Russians and other nations have been conducting cyber attacks against America for some time. We also know the final congressional certification of ballots for 2020 presidential election was constitutionally mandated by January 6th, and because of the heated rhetoric, it was all but certainly that there would be crowds of unrest. If therefore highly likely that enemy or frenemy actors were likewise aware of the potential for unrest around the Capitol building, while specific details of exactly would unfold in what order of January 6th was impossible to predict, there's good reason to expect that international handlers will find it prudent to keep small squads of agents on standby. That way, if the opportunity presents itself, they could surreptitiously insert those agents into the situation. Therefore, we have to assume some people who penetrated the Capitol building were probably foreign actors, and from that observation, we have to expect one or more of those foreign actors would made it inside to some physical action against machines normally out of their reach. So they're assuming some of those people, not a high probability or a high lot of people, was Russians or Chinese agents that actually stole computers or put malware on those computers. Physical access is more than stealing computers. Once an enemy agent gains physical access, a lot can happen. And by a lot, I mean stealth attacks, which will require capital IT teams to use a scorched earth remediation effort. First, let's be aware that malware often doesn't show itself until a set period of time or a trigger happens. So machines that seem perfectly fine may have Trojan horses on it. It is possible that machines were open and thumb drives or even extra drives were placed inside machines, which were then sealed back up with the power screwdriver. It's possible to open up the skin of a tire PC, shove a USB stick in an open internal port, and seal things back up in a minute or two. And this might not be detected. When Stuxnet destabilized the centrifuge of Iran, the worm was delivered via USB drive smuggled into the facility. In the case of the Capitol security, hundreds of people were inside the Capitol building. In effect, an attack would simply leave a random generic USB drive in various drawers and on various desktops. Without a doubt, someone would see the drive and assume it was their own and plug it in, and malware could be delivered. So what must be done? There's some IT practice that can reduce the risk. Network microsegmentation can prevent malware from crossing between zones, for example, but no network-based security practice can completely mitigate a physical attack. The Capitol building must be completely scrubbed. All machines must be scanned. Any desktop machine that is hermetically sealed must be opened and internally carefully inspected. USB drive slots must be locked, so Capitol Hill staffers can't plug in USB drives. The building must be repeatedly scanned, room by room, floor by floor, basis on a radiated signal broadcast. Espionage Act violation. Finally, everyone who participated in the attack, particularly those who penetrated the building, must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law possible, even charged with an Espionage Act violation. While some of the participants may have been characterized as patriots or angry, fine people, the fact is their actions may have provided cover for the acts of an espionage by our nation enemies. So I'm just kind of reading a high-level attack on this. Of course, I'm going to put the article in the description box. So you can help. InfoGuard posted a recent alert that I'm sharing now with you. The FBI Washington Field Office is seeking public assistance to identify individuals who made unlawful entry into the U.S. building on January the 6th. In addition, the FBI offering a reward of $50,000 for information leading to the location, arrest, and conviction of personnel responsible. So, once again, just the overview is, since that was a physical breach, there could be foreign actors with espionage attacks that could have blended in with the crowd and actually put USB drives, printers, and other devices that could have foreign malware on there, right? That could actually take advantage of those computers and those people entering the building. So once again, we're actually going to look at it from a cybersecurity perspective, right? Not a political perspective. Because a lot of people don't realize that physical security is definitely part of cybersecurity. So this is what a research firm actually wrote up a breach notification and kind of put it on the web. It was kind of high level. So we're going to kind of go through this. I thought this was actually super good. Once again, it's going to be in the description box. Congressional Research Service. Cybersecurity concerns related to the recent breach of the U.S. Capitol security. On January 6, individuals breached the U.S. Capitol while a joint session of Congress met. Among those issues are the role of social media platforms in enabling violent groups to organize and carry out their objective, the role of government in monitoring that speech, the use of public communication networks for alerting congressional building occupants, and the risk of information and technologies from unauthorized and unscreened persons accessing the U.S. Capitol. In the Insight discussion, these issues summarize concerns raised among the cybersecurity community. It does not discuss relevant issues such as internet regulations, violent extremists, law enforcement responsibilities, or U.S. Capitol security. So the role of internet, cybersecurity experts have studied the role of the use of social media to bolster recruiting, indoctrination, training, and organization of extremist groups. The Constitution protects the right of free speech, remains a significant aspect of debate as policymakers seek to combat online extremists. So right there's a balance of free speech and online extremists. The news media report that individuals who breached the U.S. Capitol uses website and social media to organize that effort. In 2020, private search firms were tracking this specific behavior online and reported it, while some cybersecurity experts cite advantages of leveraging social media for social awareness and law enforcement purposes. Others assert that social media facilitates the incident. Senator Mark Warner has asked social media companies to preserve data posted during the event, raising competing issues of free speech and national security. While the responsibilities of social media companies and web hosting providers have or ought to have to monitor their platforms for violent and extremist content and take action, remove the content or report the behavior to the authorities, the federal government previously debated the limit on what may be posted and shared online and established a requirement for the internet companies to report on child exploitation. So communication systems during emergencies, authorities rely on various communication systems to alert people working in the U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol Police used such systems on January 2021. The distribution alerts relied on Wi-Fi, cellular-based SMS systems. Both occupants and individuals who breached the Capitol security used social media to communicate their presence and status in the Capitol building. So what are the common communication plans for occupants and visitors to the United Capitol complex? And what fault tolerance is in place to ensure that information and computer communication systems are operable in an emergency? What capabilities do information technology security officials possess to filter or limit communications in emergency? What are protocols for employees such capabilities? Right, so that's incident response in the physical security realm. How are you communicating with people? If you got 50,000 people around the Capitol building can you block their signals and just use first responders to be able to use that communication channel just for their use? So physical security of IT, one of the most widely discussed concerns of risks introduced by the loss of security. During an incident, news media reported that offices were ransacked and laptops stolen. Cybersecurity experts warns the loss of physical security increased the possible risk of lost data, corrupted device, and introduce unauthorized devices or appliances compromising the network. Policymakers must seek additional information about the response. How will IT teams ensure the security of devices or information already or potentially compromised? Do IT response team have to plan to execute in this situation? If not, what lessons are being tracked and implemented if a similar response is needed in the future? Or IT teams resources implemented these plans or any lessons learned? Or IT administrators empowered to make changes? Or are there barriers which require further debate? So this was highly post-mortem of a situation. Obviously, it's still fluid, but once again, this will be in the description box. So they went over some issues, free speech, how should we actually handle social media. So this article, once again, all the articles will be in the description. Police let most Capitol rioters walk away, but cell phone data and videos could now lead to more arrests. And we're currently seeing that. So we're seeing video used. They're posting pictures that came out of videos that were taken from there. But a lot of people don't realize the Capitol building have their own phone system and telecommunication system. So when you log into their free Wi-Fi, it actually tracks your phone to your carrier, and it usually gets your name and location off of that carrier super quick. So this article talks about this at a high level, so we're just going to skim it. So authorities look to prosecute the Trump supporters who overran the building. The Capitol, more than most buildings, has a vast cellular and wireless data infrastructure of its own to make communication efficient in the building made of large stone that extends deep underground in pockets of shielded area. Such infrastructure, such as individual cell towers, can turn any connected phone into its own tracking devices. Phone records may determine the owner of devices trivially easy. Congressional investigators and federal prosecutors can identify devices. Users may have connected whittling and automatically to congressional guest Wi-Fi network. The countless hours of video must have taken by the rioters themselves is uploaded to social media. Also, any data set for facial recognition. Many scenes were captured from multiple angles with good lighting. Over several minutes, few people wore masks. While facial recognition technology often struggles to identify people with dark skin, the large majority of Trump supporters in the Capitol appeared to be white. A lot of people don't realize this is facial recognition fails on people of color 30% of the time. You'll get a false positive. So like I said, once again, we're skimming. We're just going to hit a couple higher things. The investigator has a higher priority of the Department of Justice. We have literally hundreds of prosecutors and agents working from 3 command centers on what really is a 24-hour-a-day operation. It is active and it's fluid and it is evolving. Privacy advocates warn that such a dramatic event could prompt an expansion of the use of surveillance technology in a way that could erode civil rights. With the investigation, it highlights how government officials already have broad legal authority to use them to how they see fit. Once again, I'm going to put these in the description. The FBI software can scan through a database that includes more than 641 million photos of our American faces, largely taken from jail mugshots, visa applicants, and driver's license, according to the GAO office, reported in 2019. More than 390,000 facial recognition searches have been run by local, state, and federal investigators over the last decade. So obviously the FBI can use your driver's license, passport, and other authorities to match those photos up. So I don't really think there's going to be a an issue with finding the majority of those people that actually breached the location. So I guess now is for physical security is what charges are you going to give those people? Federal charges or light charges? So Capital Attack, FBI's mum on what type of facial recognition they're using. Clearview AI searches spike. So the FBI isn't saying whether they're using facial recognition technology to identify suspects involved in a Capitol attack on Wednesday. I can tell you they're using facial recognition. So once again, this article being there. And what we're looking at here, and we're just going to hit out a highlight. Most people know I do NIST 800-53, and part of NIST is, if you look at the top, it talks about doing physical and environmental protection family. So when you do that, what are you looking for? You're looking for policies and procedures, physical access authorization, physical access control, physical control of transmission, access control for output devices, monitoring of physical assets, visitors and access records, power equipment and cable, emergency shutoff, emergency power, emergency lighting, fire and protection, environmental control, water damage. So the Capitol Police will use NIST, and these are the controls they should have in place, right, to handle a breach. So once again, we're talking about cybersecurity, physical security, United States Capitol building. So when you talk about a breach, right, so what incident response teams are you having? So once again, the Capitol Police retreated. Then I think they got the Washington, D.C. police force to come in to back those up. So I'm sure as an incident response, they've been practicing that for probably a couple years so they can come in. They actually came in pretty quick. Once they figured out they lost control, those guys lined up, and 3 hours later, you had a massive force of federal agents, police agencies running up to the Capitol building. I'm sure there's going to be a huge internal investigation because that building hasn't been breached since I think it was like 1800s. So once again, this is cybersecurity for the people, physical security, United States Capitol building. Once again, physical security is part of cybersecurity. Have a great day.